My name's Jason, I'm from Greater Manchester Law Centre. We may well have heard over the last couple of days that the government's announced the fact that it's put together a massive support package for renters. The fundamental point is that ultimately all they've done is they've kicked the can up the street. The government came to power in December 19 with a very clear promise that it was going to amend the laws to provide additional protection to renters, despite the fact we've been in pandemic for 6 months. Despite the fact that the government's introduced emergency legislation, this has still not happened. What in fact we are about to see the start of evictions. So those individuals that are struggling at the moment with specific issues concerning antisocial behaviour or domestic violence and other issues, i.e. people who have longer standing rent arrears, those evictions start now. I left my office this morning and we've already seen the first evictions that were issued between August and September. So our first case came across our desk where a landlord, recognising the fact that there might be changes to the law, has issued an eviction proceedings on the 8th of September as the start of, so that he could get ahead of the curve. Whilst we can play around with the law, ultimately what we need is long-standing legislation on the rule book that provides clear and concise protection to renters. What exactly does that mean? It means a right to housing enshrined in legislation. It means that your landlord cannot decide that after 2 months he's going to evict you because there's someone offering more money from down the road, even when you have been a good tenant. It also means as well that the courts themselves have discretion where there is rent arrears to look at the underlying causes for what they are. And fundamentally as well, it's also about ensuring that people get adequate pay, real benefit levels, so that people themselves can afford their tenancies and their rents in the long term. But as someone else has said, ultimately, the bit that pushes up rents, the bits that gives the power to landlords themselves, is a lack of legislation on the one hand and a lack of affordable and public housing on the other, and that's the other element that needs to happen. We need to have really clear targets enacted to ensure that every local authority themselves have clear public housing building targets that they themselves have to undertake, and that there has to be some form of rent control as well. So all I would say to you is, if you are struggling, if you are at risk, if you are worried at the moment, there is help immediately available to you. Get involved with your local advice agency. Get involved or get in contact with Greater Manchester Law Centre. We will defend you against any eviction proceedings. But ultimately as well, we need to organise. This is the start of the campaign, not the end. The government's rules themselves, they'll last us through the next 6 months, but then what happens? Kicking the can up the street. We have to organise now, we have to legislate now, and what in fact we have to do is start the campaign now. So thank you very much.